Yeah, since it's time, so I think we must start on time as always, you know. So a
Yeah.
formal hello to everyone and a very warm welcome to this webinar, Enhancing Problem Solving and Critical Thinking Abilities. I'm so happy to see such an overwhelming number of registrations for this webinar, and I'm truly glad to see the community of Shimanli educators growing. Today, we have our expert, Ms. Eliana, who's going to throw light on how collaboration skills and concept-based inquiry will be effectively integrated into the learning process to enhance problem solving and critical thinking abilities. I'm Ruchira Banka. I'm the Principal Educational Consultant at Shimanli and your host for the session today. I have been an educator for around 19 years. I've led the CBSE, the Cambridge, and the IB curricula at various stages of my professional career. I carry a personal mission to spread skill-based learning and to bring a revolutionary change in the education system. I believe that life is full of challenges and unpredictable situations. To encounter challenging situations, one needs to be resilient and to become better equipped. The English, math, science, art, etc., whatever is being taught in classes is definitely a huge step to build up a child's career. However, one needs to be emotionally strong, self-aware, and adaptable to situations to be able to take informed decisions and stand strong. And I'm sure each one of us here has come with an agenda in mind to do our little bit to create individuals who are able to problem solve. And I believe you're at the right platform in the community of educators that Shimanli has brought in. Let me introduce Shimanli to you. Shimin is a Japanese term that means citizen, and we are on a mission to create global citizens. Shimanli is a one-stop platform where you find solutions to deliver skill-based education into your classrooms. We have facilitators sitting across the globe who partner with you in taking this journey of life skills education into your day-to-day teaching practices. Shimanli facilitators deliver these lessons to school students from grades 1 to 12 based on a well-structured curriculum inspired by the Harvard, UNESCO, the World Economic Forum, and so on. And in this endeavor to grow our community of educators and learners, Shimanli had started collaborating with schools in various nations. We started with India and Bangladesh and are now reaching to countries in the Middle East, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Egypt, and many more. We believe that collaboration is one such small step, but accumulated over time will create a powerful force for change. And without further ado, I would like all of us to welcome our esteemed speaker for today's session, Eliana. She's an IB educator, an IDU BQC reviewer since 2017, and a certified concept-based trainer and presenter since 2020. Eliana has a vast experience in teaching English language in the PYP and FYP, leading teams to achieve their full abilities as she embarked on multiple roles, starting from being a primary teacher, a team leader, middle school leader, and a subject coordinator. Currently, she is the MYP coordinator at English Talent Schools in Amman, Jordan, leading languages, arts, and individuals in societies while teaching Year 3 English language and literature. In addition, she is a Global Schools Previous advocate for her country and currently a mentor for new advocates. Her experience in these varied yet connected roles provide her with consistently rich, challenging learning experiences as she gains more depth and understanding in the program she's leading, as well as developing an agile mindset seeking development consistently. We are all here to learn from your experiences, Eliana. Over to you.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Definitely good afternoon and good evening for everyone who's joining us today. Thank you very much for joining us on a Thursday. I've been already looking through the chat. Thank you for people who are joining us from KSA, from India as well. So if the rest of you would like to take this opportunity and tell us where are you actually joining us from? And if you can give us a heads up, what do you teach? And which grades are you in? That will give us more ideas, basically, in order how to approach the session. I think Richard already explained about my biography, so I'm not going to spend more time talking about it. Simply, I'm going to give you my top tips that I usually give for educators. Since we live in a world that is partly changing, and definitely education, as we hear nowadays, everything is changing and everyone is adapting to that accelerating change that's going on. We as educators, we need to embark on having an agile mindset, how we can actually adopt and be open to new ideas, adapted to change of the things that are happening. And always remember, whether you're and highly experienced educator, or you're still starting your education journey, remember this is the learning process. We're all in this together. This is where, because it's a learning journey, we all learn from it. So we look at our strengths, our areas that we need to develop. We always critically reflect on our learning journey in order simply to continuously improve. So it's not only the students who are becoming lifelong learners. We as educators, we are lifelong learners as well, because what we do is we keep on seeking further information, further knowledge on how we can simply enhance our learning journey. And I believe this is why we are here today. We have a lot of IBDP biology teachers. Thank you for coming from Montessori, India, MYP educator from India. Thank you very much. We have PYP teachers as well. Don't worry, the session is actually equipped for PYP, MYP, DP, any language teachers, language, INDES, math, it's all applicable. In order to support you, at least with heads up, these are some resources I usually use whenever I start to learn, and I feel that educators, it would be really helpful for educators to actually look at them. Concept-based inquiry in action. This is by Carla Marshall and Rachel Finch. They simply embark on the learning cycle phase, and they give you a lot of strategies that will help you on implementing the different inquiry cycle within your classroom. They're applicable again to any age level. You just look at the different samples, the different strategies that you can use. If you are still new in concept-based inquiry, I would suggest transitioning to concept-based curriculum and instruction by Dr. Lynn Erickson and Lois Nanning. It will give you the understanding, why do we need concept-based, what do we mean by it, and what are the different structures that we actually follow in concept-based. I'm also going to share with you towards the end of the session a couple of links that might be helpful to you. I know a lot of teachers, we need to read, we need to see how these strategies are actually implemented. So Teaching Channel is actually giving us a lot of videos on strategies and how they are being implemented, in addition to different concept-based strategies that I already have. Our session objective for today is we'll start, in order to make sure that we're all within the same common understanding regarding concept-based. We'll talk a bit about what is concept-based inquiry. We'll talk about how can we define collaboration skills, what are the different skills that are actually hidden within the collaboration skills, if you want to say that. What is the role of collaboration in concept-based inquiry class, and how can collaboration skill and concept-based inquiry be effectively integrated in our learning process, and what is their connection to critical thinking and problem-solving skills? So let's start with concept-based curriculum and instruction. What I'll do is I'll show you a statement. You can use the chat, and you can tell us if this statement is actually true or false. This is one way, we call it spectrum statement. This is one way for us in order to identify any prior knowledge that students might have, so you can actually implement it within your classroom. So let's start with the first statement. Concept-based inquiry dismisses facts and skills. You can use the chat if you want to send in. Do you think this is true or this is false? If we have no as well. No, false, no. Okay, good. So concept-based inquiry is true. Concept-based inquiry does not dismiss facts and skills. This is a misconception that teachers have regarding concept-based. Actually, in concept-based, we start with the facts and the skills. So we consider the facts and the skills as foundation, and then we add the new layer, which is the concept. So you cannot actually explore a conceptual idea or start to build a conceptual idea without having the knowledge and the facts and the skills to begin with. Let's look at another one. Again, you can use the chat for typing as yes and no. In concept-based lessons, concepts are used to categorize and organize information, transfer them into different contexts. So we have yes, true, yes, definitely it's true. So in concept-based lesson, these concepts, they work as mental construct. So you need to imagine as if learners, they have a mental folder within their minds And what do they do is with all the information, all the knowledge they have, they start categorizing them into concepts and they start making those connections. And sometimes we create connections between concepts themselves, and this is what we call a generalization. This generalization is a statement that reflects the connection between the concepts, and we can actually transfer it to different contexts. And this is what coordinators or teachers, if you're attending sessions, they call the near and the far transfer, how we can actually take that generalization and place it in a situation that is familiar to what we're doing in the classroom, and sometimes take it to something that is totally unfamiliar, totally outside of what we're doing in the classroom and the discipline that we're incorporating with. One more statement: in concept-based, teachers develop the intellect to handle the world of increasing complexity and accelerating change. What do you think? Is it true or is it false? Yes. Definitely true. I agree with the definitely aspect. Yes, in concept-based inquiry, we said that students and teachers, they create these generalizations, these statements that can actually be transferred into different contexts. But what do these generalizations, what do these concepts they actually do? We have a lot of changes that's happening in the world, and the way we actually understand those changes is by either the concepts or the relationship between multiple concepts, because we can find the connection between concepts visible in our real world. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video, and this video is actually by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the video discusses how education has changed. So this will give you more insight toward how education actually changed within the world. So if you can't see the screen, just thumbs up so I can tell. Okay, thank you. So the video is actually around 3 minutes. You can use the chat if you want to record your notes. If you want to use a side note and write your notes about it as well, you can do that. It's a really good video, a lot of ideas involved. Okay, and I'll be looking on your chat just to see what are the notes that you have.
Our world is constantly changing. As our politics, technology, and societal aspirations evolve, we find ourselves shifting towards ever more open and purpose-driven societies, ones that must confront ethical challenges brought about by new technologies and global climate change. What does the 21st century look like? Let's explore the patterns of past and present to understand our vision for the future. The 19th century was an age of civil wars, colonialism, and imperialism. This was followed by 2 world wars in the 20th century and the restoration of independence for many countries. So far, the 21st century has been characterized by interdependence among nations and a decentralization of power to individuals. In the 19th century, mass production became possible through new inventions and the exploitation of labor. The world's economies and cultures became increasingly connected, which led to globalization becoming a hallmark of the 20th century. Late last century, the internet and new jobs in computers, electronics, and finance spurred the automation of manual tasks and increased access to information. We are now in an age of accelerated technological innovation, global digital communication, a shared economy, and mass migration with increasing levels of urbanization. Working life has also changed, with the workforce taking on shared decision-making responsibilities in flat and open organizations. Increased social and environmental awareness is shifting business aims from purely profit-driven to purpose-driven. Our relationship with the environment was one of exploitation in the 19th and 20th centuries, tempered by an emerging awareness of the environment and concern over climate change in the latter half of the 20th century. A paradigm shift is now occurring in the 21st century, where the well-being of humanity is recognized as dependent on the well-being of the planet. Education has been affected by all of these changes. When universal public schooling emerged in the 19th century, a static, standardized curriculum prepared students for jobs. In the 20th century, the purpose of education expanded to include individual fulfillment, and new disciplines were added. Now and looking forward, education systems aspire to implement flexible, dynamic curricula that recognize the differences between individual students and provide the tools for all students to realize their full potential in an uncertain future. Schools are no longer closed off from their surroundings, but are hubs of collaboration, continually contributing to and being influenced by their wider ecosystem. What might the future of education look like? Visit our website to.
So based on the video, what are some of the ideas that you can actually take it as takeaway? Share it through the chat. The video is rich in the ideas, and definitely it enhances the idea of collaboration and connection between different aspects, interdependence. True, so they were investigating interdependence and how it is connected to education. What else? Let us know through the chat what are some of the ideas that you think were conveyed within the video. Education is now a hub of collaboration. We're looking at collaboration, innovation, and how it changes the process. We're looking at globalization, interdisparity. That's an interesting idea that you found, that creativity, purpose-driven instead of profit-driven, the importance of 21st century, the purpose-driven, the sustainable development, interdisparity again, the multiculturalism, the innovation, more use of technology, definitely the collaboration and the global citizenship. One must be open to change. And yes, this is what we said, we need to have that agile mindset because we need to adapt to all the changes that are happening. Constructive, definitely, globalization, the ability to change. The well-being of the mankind definitely is now dependent on the well-being of the planet. So there is a connection, there is a collaboration between humans and the environment itself. The positive impact of technological development, the paradigm shift in all sectors. Equity and equality, definitely there are important concepts that we need to explore with our students. And yes, definitely this is based on SDG problem solving, for example, the PLB, and if you're looking into the different philosophies that are out there, definitely they all go in handy. So if we're looking at the video, some of the most important ideas I came up with were that I think most of you said that the world is changing. And definitely since the world is changing, we have different connections and different relationships, and we have the roles of different people, they're actually changing as well. So the role of schools and the roles of educators are changing, already in order to meet whatever is happening around the world, because we have shared economy. So whatever is happening in one aspect of the world is definitely going to affect us. There is an increased access of information, especially because of the technological development as well. So what do we do with this information and how do we deal with it? Do we simply give it all to students? Will they be able to access all this information and really understand it? Or do we need to inform them or explore with them a different relationship with information? How we can read, how we can analyze, how we can interpret, and how we can connect. This is why we're looking at schools and education as a purpose-driven hubs of collaboration. Every school nowadays, they have their own mission, their own vision, something that tells their cooperation in the world. What are they bringing? So a good opportunity, for example, might be to look at your own school's mission and vision. What is the role of your school in your community? And that will give you more ideas regarding the different aspects that you need to explore within your classroom as well. We're looking at shared decision-making. Education plays a huge part in the development of any country, and this is why we need to look at it. In schools, we give tools for students. We teach them ATL skills, we teach them display skills that they will become handy and they will be able to use in the world. That's why when we're looking at schools curriculum, we are not looking at a fixed set of curriculum. We're looking more of a framework, something that schools can adopt, schools that they can make a connection with their own culture, with their own community. It's not something that is fixed, something that educators, they can take part in designing that curriculum. So this is mainly how education is changing. So we can already tell that our relationship with education is changing. We as educators, we need to change as well. So information without the intellect is meaningless. And this is when we talked about the relationship that students have with the information. Students, they need to be critical, they need to be creative, they need to be reflective, they need to take the information and they need to critique it. They need to know, how can I use this information in order to be more creative? How can I reflect on this information? What do I now understand about the world? What do I now understand about myself? How can I use it to better serve my community? Students are applying their metacognitive skills. They're thinking about their own thinking. What actually makes them achieve more? What makes them succeed in the world? And this is where they have their own choice and voice. So they're analytical, they're strategic, and at the same time, they're being curious. They're being engaged within the learning process. A lot of educators at the beginning of the session talked about the 21st century. So we're talking about the learning skills, the critical thinking, the creativity, the collaboration. We're talking about the literary skills, the information, the media. And we're talking as well about life skills, the social skills, the leadership. We need students to be leaders in the classroom. We need teachers to become leaders. It's not that we have only one leader in the school. Yes, we have one strategic leader, let's say, but we need these minor leaders that are actually leading the teams, because everyone is a leader within their own community. A teacher is a leader within the classroom. We need to have that flexibility, that agile mindset in order to cope with everything that happens. Something happened, it doesn't mean life ended, or it doesn't mean that education is interrupted, just like what happened with COVID-19. Immediately, we weren't able to go to schools, but immediately we shifted to online learning. So education did not stop. We had that flexibility and we immediately shifted to simply a new platform, and we were still providing the services to our students. Inquiry-based learning. If we're implementing inquiry-based learning as well, we're looking at a lot of integration that is being encouraged. We're looking at a lot of interaction, a lot of sharing with different experts, with the students as well. What does it mean for us teachers in the classroom? It means that we need to have collaborative learning more. We need to have group-based learning. We need to have problem-solving tasks that should be used regularly. We need to encourage peer teaching. We need to encourage students taking the role of coaches. We need to avoid teaching to the whole classroom. Let's say that. Usually when we teach for the whole classroom, it's either to give instructions or to give to explicitly teach something for 5 to 10 minutes. But we usually go to small teaching groups and we lean more towards teaching cooperative learning skills. Again, if we're using project-based learning, we're looking at the driving questions as the focus of the lesson. We're looking at the voice and the choice of the students. We're looking at the implementation of 21st century and the development that we have them within the classroom. If you're implementing STEM education as well, so we're looking at technology, we're looking at science and math and how we can use them in order to create new products. So we're looking at different aspects of learning. If you're using universal design for learning, definitely you're exploring the why, the what, and how of learning. So we're looking simply how the whole paradigm of understanding education is something totally different. We need to understand it when we understand, as we understand what the world, how the world works, what is our in this changing world, and helping our students to become partners as well. So the key question is, how can all this be achieved? How can our students adopt, see, integrate, collaborate, and definitely succeed in the education system and all the changes that are happening nowadays? Discovering of the self, definitely. So we're looking at concept-based inquiry, and this is the inquiry cycle we usually implement within concept-based inquiry. So if we're implementing concept-based inquiry, what do students do? They go through the inquiry cycle. So they go through the engage, the focus, they investigate, they organize, they generalize their understanding, and they transfer to different contexts. So technically, what do students do in a concept-based inquiry? They generate questions about topics, because it's not only the teacher that generates questions. Students can generate questions about the topic. They make predictions. What do you think we're going to learn? What do you think the connection between poverty, for example, and needs of humans? So they make predictions, they hypothesize, they investigate to discover answers. They might look at different case studies in order to reach it. They might look at different resources in order to solve the issue. They might look at different literary work in order to understand it as well. Or it can be a combination of different resources that can be human, can be visual, can be something that is being read. They critically think about their findings. So we can see the connection of the critical skills and how they can actually incorporate them. So they critically think about their own findings. In order for them to reach an understanding and generalize and formulate their own statements, they create connections between these different concepts and how they understand it within the world. And they definitely reflect all the way. And this is where we have the critical thinking aspect throughout the whole inquiry cycle. They apply tools to support their learning. So we're looking, if you want, at the ATL skills, we're looking at 21st century skills. All these skills that's going to help them in order to support their learning. So if we already looked at what the students do in a concept-based inquiry, and I believe I talked a lot about the different things that students do in a concept-based inquiry, what are the skills that are required in a concept-based learning experience? So if you can use the chat and tell us, based on the things that we said, and most of you said some of your peer-to-peer MIP teachers, DP teachers, what can you tell us? What are some of the skills you teach your students in the class, or you think they're required in the class? Research skills, definitely. Critical thinking skills, thinking, research. Definitely research is a huge bulk of it. Research as well, analysis, definitely analytical skills, the critical mind that we need our students to have. Thinking, self-management, ATL skills in general, true, creative thinking, collaboration, evaluation, research and analysis. So here and I and this teacher, we usually research and we evaluate our resources as well. Communication skills, research analysis, analysis and synthesizing, how we combine the information, self-awareness, the effective skills, collaboration, self-management. So we see a lot of skills that are actually incorporated within concept-based lessons. And some of these skills are, just like what you said, the communication skills, the collaboration skills, the critical thinking skills, creative thinking, and citizenship, the relationship of students within our planet. For our session today, we're simply going to focus on collaboration skills. Even though while we're discussing, you'll see that we're hinting a lot that there is a hidden connection, if you want to say it, between communication and between critical thinking or thinking skills in general. So how can we define collaboration skills? You can use the chat and tell us, how would you as a teacher define collaboration skills within your classroom? You can use the chat to share your answer. Understanding different perspectives, group tasks, group work, showing empathy when working together, students taking ownership, students working together, learning how to work in a group toward a common goal, teamwork, group discussion, teamwork, accepting others' ideas, sharing the knowledge, group project and peer learning. So we have a lot of definitions that definitely hit the target, taking action together within the chat. Thank you for sharing your notes, collaboration between students when working in a project, being open-minded, respecting others' ideas, following rules, project, student-led classroom. Thank you very much, definitely. Teamwork as well. So if we're looking at collaboration skills, we can divide them as the interpersonal and the interpersonal qualities and competencies that we leverage in order to solve a problem or make a progress toward a common goal. So if we're looking at the interpersonal skills, we're looking at the social skills. Some of you said that. How do we actually react in a group? How do we feel empathy with other people? How we listen to each other? The interpersonal skills, when we're talking about being open to new ideas, accepting different perspectives, the time management skills that are under there, the ability to avoid distraction. A lot of students, we as educators, sometimes we're feeling guilty that yes, we are distracted a lot, the self-confidence that some students, for example, they're already lacking. And we're looking at the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities. So if we're looking at collaboration skills, even though some people might say it's only group work, it actually implies a lot of skills within, because we're looking at the self-management skills, we're looking at the effective skills, we're looking at our own knowledge, skills, and ability, we're looking at listening skills, communication skills, and they all come in handy within while we're discussing collaboratives. Not working in solos, definitely. Understanding group dynamics, definitely. So what is the role, since we already talked about collaboration, what is the role of collaboration in a concept-based inquiry lesson? So when we looked at the cycle, we talked about the engaging, the focusing, the investigating, the organizing, the generalization. And usually students in a concept-based lesson, they communicate ideas, they communicate hypotheses and findings. They ask inquiries, they ask questions, factual, conceptual, debatable questions even. They provide feedback to each other. They connect ideas together. They synthesize their ideas. They provide feedback for each other. They exchange perspectives in order to build their own shared perspective. Someone at the beginning of the session talked about interdisciplinarity. And yes, this is it, where we actually combine the different perspectives from different disciplines in order to reach a new one, where we clarify misconceptions. Sometimes students, they might reach an understanding that this is the relationship and we need to clarify. We need to provide them with more case studies, ask them more questions, ask them to provide feedback, connect more ideas that can give more clarity regarding that connection. We need to construct generalizations that actually communicate learning. So this is the role of collaboration in concept-based inquiry. So since we talked about concept-based inquiry, we talked about collaboration skills. How can collaboration skills now and concept-based inquiry be effectively integrated within the learning process? We talked about it generally. Now let's talk about it more in depth. Whenever we're looking at collaboration skills, we might look at the opposite of what you shared. Sometimes teachers just simply, let's collaborate. The idea is that we as teachers, we need to set the purpose. What is the focus question that you want your students to inquire about? Give them that question. Do not give them a statement. So give them a question that they need to identify within their group work. So the purpose of their group work is to answer that question. Sometimes we might have guiding questions, or if you want to call them scaffolding questions, that you can spread out or simply hand out to different students within the group, that each one takes a different role in order for them to do it. Identify roles to ensure accountability. We need to show students that everyone is responsible for the learning process. You need to take an active part, participate. So you can assign different roles: reader, writer, analytical, word, for example, deductor, commenter even. You can create your own roles that you want to implement within the group work. Teach them explicitly how to collaborate. This year, for example, I'm teaching grade 8. I haven't taught grade 8 for a while, so this was the first time I'm actually teaching grade 8. And we went through the first collaborative, let's say collaborative task that we had to do. And unfortunately, it didn't go well. For me, I consider it as a learning. This is a reflection on our learning. So what did we do? What were our strengths? What were our weaknesses? And I totally understood that my students, even though they're in grade 8, they still don't know how to collaborate effectively. So we had to stop and we had to teach them how to collaborate. And I actually used the strategy called LISTEN. It's actually an acronym. So I told them, while you're within your group, these are the steps that we're going to follow. You're going to look and you're going to listen and you're going to make eye contact. And for language teachers, you're going to love this. You're going to watch for body language, because we as language teachers, we need to teach students the nonverbal communication. So this is a good way for you to teach students that you need to look at the body language of the people who are sitting next to, so you know when to speak, when to stop a bit and actually listen. Inquire and ask information, find information, ask questions about what the person said. So if a person said something, summarize what that person said, write it down. This is what this person said. And then take a breath. And when you speak, do not talk too much, in order to allow a lot of people or the whole group to actually discuss together. Encourage other people within your group and think about something that they might actually feel. So if they're not feeling comfortable about sharing the information, how about you ask them, tell them, this is how we start and you can help them with. Neutralize your feelings. So when students, they applied LISTEN, they were able to write down what every person said, and they were able to build on each other's notes. So I gave them sentence prompts, and they were saying, this is, for example, what Ahmed said. I want to build on his own understanding by adding this additional idea. And they were actually building on each other's idea. And this is what we as teachers, we want our students to do. We want them to build that perspective by sharing the different points of view that students, they actually do within a group. So one way for you to do it, to double check that yes, they're doing the work effectively, record notes from the team members. Tell them, ask them questions. If there's anything you don't understand, simply, there's nothing wrong in asking questions. Reflect on the collaboration, providing, receiving feedback, strengths and areas to develop. So usually when I end the collaborative work, I ask them, evaluate your own collaborative work. What were your strengths? What were your weaknesses this time? So next time when we're doing collaborative work, we can actually decide on our goals and decide on our areas that we need to do. So this is a good way for you to do it. Your group work does not have to be successful every single time. Even group work that did not work well is a good way for students to identify more about themselves, identify the points that they did not follow, they did not go through. So it will help you to enhance their collaboration skills. Set goals for improving collaborative work and monitoring their progress. It's always a good step for students to be mindful about their strength, about their areas that they want to develop, and how do they want to develop it. So they can set their own goals, and they can ask their partners within the same group, can you help me next time in achieving this goal? Or you can ask for example, teachers' help. Can you help me in actually reaching my goal? What are some of the strategies that you can actually tell me about? Okay, so the collaborative inquiry is where students, they identify the topics. So usually we as teachers, we come into the lesson and we are the ones who are initiating the inquiry because we have the big idea of the unit. But how about we ask students to start engaging, them to find the idea, them to create the big idea that they want to explore within their inquiry unit? How about you come to the classroom and simply give them different resources, world news, local news, simply take them a walk around the school and ask them to identify the things that they actually see. How about you introduce sustainable development goals within your classroom and ask them to identify a goal that is really something that is interesting to them, because we want students to actually be interested in whatever they're learning. And then you can start setting off your inquiry. Another way to do it, teachers, we model collaboration in order for students to enhance their own collaboration. For me, when I'm teaching grade 8 sometimes, and we have to investigate, I teach language and literature. And when my students, they start to investigate, for example, the historical context about a novel, I always tell them, let's remember, what do you do in the Individuals and Societies classroom? You research there. Do you remember the steps of research? Formulating a research question, the sub-research questions, how you evaluate your own resources, the primary, secondary resources, how do you use your OPBL in order to have these credible resources. So you always refer to what another teacher is actually doing in the classroom. And that teaches students that, oh, teachers collaborate as well. And this is the highlight of the day, that we know what students do in every classroom. And that will help us to simply connect to the learning that's happening, to the skills that are learning. Sometimes teachers, they can collaborate. I taught, for example, listen to my students in the classroom. And I told the INDES teacher, how about you implement it as well in your classroom? When we work synchronously together, this actually helps you because we're having the consistency between all teachers. And this is when you have, for example, your leaders coming in and tell you, we have our collaborative meeting for today. How about you share a strategy that works really well? Share it with the rest of the team. Okay, so collaboration between teachers, model in front of students. We are giving the idea for students. Yes, teachers, they actually know what we're doing. They're collaborating. There's always a huge collaboration between, for example, me, the INDES teacher, the Arabic language and literature. So if you're teaching a subject that is being taught in Arabic or any other language, ask the teacher what she's doing. My students, they were analyzing Martin Luther King's speech. And I told them, do you remember when in the Arabic language and literature, you actually read a novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and you researched the historical background? So what do we know about USA before 1963, for example? Because that will help us to understand the whole purpose behind the speech. So the connection is there, and students, they actually know that teachers are collaborating. So how do we incorporate collaboration and concept-based inquiry in order to enhance the creative thinking, the critical thinking in our classroom? Collaborate to engage. Have students collaborate in order to engage within your lessons. activate their prior knowledge. Usually at the beginning of our unit, we activate our students' prior knowledge. So how about you ask them to collaborate in order to do that? How about they include their own personal experience and their own exposure to ideas? You can provide them with opinion-based strategies, how they discuss opinions and prior knowledge that is related to provocative statements or questions. Give them statements, give them questions, ask them what do they think about it. Or you can do experiential strategies where you engage in shared experiences that stimulate and provoke thinking and emotion. Or discussion-based strategies where the listening, the talking, and the exchanging of ideas and questions with peers come in handy. For example, this is one of the strategies I was using, food corner debate. I give my students a question, or I give them a statement, and I tell them, do you strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree? And then choose a corner in the classroom. But the idea is, once you find yourself in a certain, for example, corner, you need to discuss with your group members, you need to analyze, you need to think, and you need to justify. Why do you answer like that? So you have the collaboration aspect. They are listening, they are building on each other's perspective. They're using their critical thinking skills. So for corner debate, and definitely they're moving away from their seats. So it can be actually adhering to the well-being of students. Another strategy is the spider web discussion. You can have students standing, for example, in a circle, or you can have them sit in a circle. And you can initiate the discussion by asking either a question or a statement and asking students for their opinion. So we see that our opinion, students' opinion are appreciated, are voiced out in the classroom, and we're giving students agency. One student, they start answering, another student can build on what the previous student said, and students, they can build up on each other's experiences. So students, they're listening, they're collaborating, but they're collaborating effectively now. And they're engaging in the discussion, they're building their own prior knowledge, they're activating, and we have our students simply recapping on all of the experience. Our students as well can collaborate to investigate. So this is the inquiry cycle, and we see how collaboration is actually within. They investigate a range of case studies in order to develop a broad knowledge base, and that will help them to justify their own understanding. So we can use, for example, visual resources. We can use videos, images. We can use print, books from different genres. We can use blogs. We can use human resources and actually bring experts and individuals. We can do interviews through Skype. We can use ChatGPT if you're an INDES teacher and chat with a historian. So we have different ways for actually how to collaborate to investigate. I'll give you an example. For example, what we've done, this is the grade 6 INDES unit. We asked our students, they were exploring the Sustainable Development Goals, and we actually took one of the goals, ending poverty, in order for them to explore it. And we asked them to find the connection between poverty and people's lives. So how does poverty affect people's lives? And we gave them that focused question. And we told them, you're going to collaborate together in order to investigate that issue. And how you're going to investigate it will give you different resources. We gave them a video showcasing poverty in a country. Another group, we gave them an SDG blog that is issued by the United Nations. Another group, we gave them language and literature novel. It's A Long Walk to Water, if anyone's familiar with it. It talks about water issue around the world. So students, each student, they were actually sitting down and they were reading through the resource in order to identify the effects of poverty, the causes of poverty, the consequences of it. And we all had it from different perspectives. But then what did we do? We actually collaborated to generalize. So we're actually going through the cycle with you. So the students, they communicated their finding. They discussed the connection between poverty and its effects on people's life. And then at the end, and they gave all these justifications from the blog, from the video, from the literature piece. And then we asked them, how about we formulate one statement? And that statement is going to show us the connection between poverty and people's lives. And usually when we ask them to generalize, we understand that. So we can say that poverty affects people's standards of living, or poverty may, or people, for example, poverty may affect people's standards of living, or you might want to go more in depth and talk about needs, that poverty may change people's needs as well. So the students, they were coming up with these generalizations, and you can post them inside the classroom. And then you can ask them again, how about we dig deeper? What do we mean by standards of living? You can go into more explorations with them. So these are some of the ideas how we can use collaboration within the inquiry cycle. And if we notice all the discussions that we had and all the strategies, they all involve critical thinking, they all involve problem solving. So this actually invites us to think about the future of schools. This is a very integrative graph from Cambridge News, actually, and I thought it was very intriguing because it tells us how collaboration is actually there, how the relationship between schools and educators are actually different, how we actually need collective leadership and we need critical thinking skills within the classroom, how partnership, how collaboration is the key. This is a very important, let's say, provocative image that teachers can actually take back, and you can simply use it within your teams. How do you think this will affect you as a teacher within your classroom, a teacher teaching, for example, language and literature, or teaching individuals and society within your classroom? Mainly it's time for reflection, sharing resources. So for our reflection, and to tell you a bit about the resources that you can find, Shimili has a very wide range of teaching and learning libraries. So some of the collaborative skills that I actually talked about, you can find a lot of videos regarding teamwork, communication, creativity, innovation, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence. So it's a good idea for you if you want to simply explore and see it. I think that we as teachers, we mainly look forward to seeing things in action. How do you actually do it in action? That's why we kept on giving a lot of exercises that we do in schools. So this is one resource for you that you can do it. And I'll be sharing now another resource with different links that you can actually look at as well, and you can actually use. In addition to this, we can look at our own reflection as another way of collaboration, because reflection is one way of collaboration as well. This is the blob transition and shows us you can use it as a diagnostic, you can use it as a reflection. I use it sometimes as a formative assessment with my students. So what you can do is choose a number that actually represents your status regarding achieving session's objective. Do you understand more about collaboration and concept-based? What is your next step? So yes, we attended this session. What do you have in mind now? This is where the critical reflection goes in handy. How will you apply what you've learned within your classroom? So if you can share that with us via chat, it would be really helpful. So what is the number that reflects your understanding? 11. And if you can tell us what is your next step, how will you take what you've learned and apply it within your schools? How will you take it to other people, for example? Okay, 11. Glad that actually the session, we found the session really handy. 10. Okay, we're still considering. We have 10, 11. If you have any questions, you can ask as well. And definitely, we will answer your questions and support you in your journey as well. So 10, 11, we're on our way. We might be a bit worried, let's say, or a bit skeptical about things. So if you have any questions, you can ask. You're more than welcome to ask. If you want to use the chat to ask your questions, I think you can do that. Or if you want to raise your hand and open your mic, we can do that as well.
Hello, Ileana, am I audible?
I can hear you.
Okay, very good evening. And a big thank you. That was a lovely session, lovely. Okay, and I love that the way you elaborated on the word listen. That was really thought-provoking and great idea. Okay, I just want to share my experience because as the head of the school, once I went to a teacher's class, okay, and I saw there are groups who are sitting all over and they are discussing something, okay? There's a piece of paper, very beautiful, I mean, colored papers and all, okay? Then I walked up to them and I said, what are you doing? They said, ma'am, we have been given an activity and then we are discussing upon it, we are analyzing it. So there was a science question. So I said, what are you analyzing? So they gave me the question also. So I said, do you know how to analyze? Do you know what is analysis? What is? And then they started looking at my face. They said, ma'am, we just are looking at different websites and books and all, and that is all. That is what we are doing. So I think as a teacher, it's equally important to tell them how to analyze, how to validate. These are very easy words to use. I mean, we think it comes naturally to the student, okay? And the teachers are standing in one corner. According to them, this is one of the best collaborative sessions that is going on. But what I found is that there was nothing transcending down when it came to the students, okay? So that is where I feel a lot of preparation is needed at the end of the teacher also, not only listening, but preparing beforehand. I mean, a lot of thinking and planning has to go in these sessions. This is what I feel, yes.
Definitely. I think most of the thinking, this is what people, they don't notice. Most of the thinking in concept base, it actually happens outside the classroom. So when we as teachers were in the classroom and we're implementing concept base, you would see us simply asking questions, clarifying things for students, because we've already done the work ahead of hand. You already said the keyword they were analyzing and they didn't know the meaning of the word analyze. I think this is where the exploration of the command terms, if you're in MYP or IB, where the exploration of the command terms come in handy. So usually when we give a question for students, we go through the question and we ask them. So if the question involves, for example, key terms, we might want to ask them, what does that key term actually mean? You might want to have posters in your classroom for each term. I usually have posters. What do we mean by analyze, justify, evaluate? So my students, when they read the question, they actually look at it and they understand it. And I think your keyword actually links to what we said, that we need to explicitly teach our students these skills. So before we actually move on to the analysis, what are the skills that are needed and the background knowledge that is needed from our students? We had a question, any examples on how to activate prior knowledge? Definitely. It can be easily done either through, for example, doing gallery walk. You can show different images around the classroom and simply pose questions to the students. What do you actually see? What do you think about it? What questions come to your mind? Based on that, you might want to bring newspapers to the classroom or open them for them on a website, for example, news, BBC Kids, for example, New Zealand. They're always really good news websites if you want to use in the classroom. You might want to use different resources. You might want to give them different groups, one a video, for example, one a book or a small article, short article that they want to read, or you might give them simply questions or statements. Are they true? Are they not? Just like what I did with you at the beginning of the session. I didn't tell you, let's activate our prior knowledge. I explained the strategy for you. So you might want to give them sentences and you think these sentences, they actually represent what do you want your students to know about the topic. So I think the first key thing you need to know, break down. If this is the topic you're going to teach, what is the expected, let's say, knowledge that students might have? What do you want students to know? So you start setting that up. It can be even an experiment, simply a guest speaker coming in and talking about it. Anything can be a provocative for students' prior knowledge and accessing it. Will the PTT be shared? I think the video is going to be shared with the resource as well. Someone said the next step would be to implement the lesson part. I found it really useful with my students, so hopefully you will as well. My next step, researching Too Many Library. They have very interesting videos, so you might want to explore as well. Thank you very much for your comments. Collaborate to investigate the different resources. Yes, we usually, what do we do is I give students different resources. I'm a language and literature teacher. I know some schools, they actually ask students to explore one novel within. You can either divide, for example, the novel chapters, ask students to read them ahead of time, divide the pages on students, or you can use other resources as well. Sometimes I use the novel and then I add videos that I know they tackle certain aspects that are actually implemented within the pages that I want them to read. And sometimes I use blogs as well. So it's really good in order to have different resources that will help students to really explore the basic of the inquiry in order for them to reach an understanding. Further leading the statements created by the students toward the SOI. Honestly, I have to be honest, since I've been implementing concept-based for the past 3 years, I never shared the SOI with the students. We actually work together on creating different generalizations, and I keep the SOI section empty on my inquiry wall. And every time we come up with the generalization, I put it up. And then when we reach the end of the unit, we look at all the generalizations. And then I ask them, so what is the big idea of the unit? And they come up with their own SOI. And sometimes they meet the SOI when they look at the summative, or when I ask them to reflect on the end of the unit. Difficult to explicitly teach collaborative skill. You made it too simple and adorable. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you for joining again. It's really nice to see similar names, familiar names for me. Thank you very much for the session. We're going to share the resource. There's a resource now. We're going to share it as well. If you have any questions, I think this is mainly regarding for the questions. So what we'll do is we'll share with you. There's a sheet that we're going to share it with you now. This is the sheet that you're going to find in the chat. It's basically the collaboration and concept-based inquiry. So you find titles and links that you can actually explore within your teams as well. Delivering power to people, features of inquiry-based teaching, the benefits of inquiry-based, how to have effective collaboration skills, because it's not only with the teachers. Sometimes we as educators, we need to do that within our teams. The conceptual learning framework, teaching collaboration skills, group work roles. You have different areas where you can actually look at the different roles and simply change them. And we have also blogs from Shimin Lee, so it's a really good idea for you to access that. They have good blogs as well that you can look at and you can really engage with. I just need to share the, okay, can you help me, Rashida, and share this sheet with them? That's the only thing that we have left.
We'll have it shared. I'll also have it shared along with the email where we share the recording.
So thank you very much. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. If you don't have any questions, thank you very much for attending today's session on a Thursday. I know Thursday, for anyone who's in Jordan, this is usually the start of a weekend. We hurry up in order to move and go to our separate lives. So thank you very much. Thank you. Hopefully I will
talk about global, citizenship skills.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jyoti. Sorry, yes, Jyoti, can you repeat?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about citizenship skills?
Sure. So when you're looking at citizenship, simply ask your students the question, what is our role in the community? This is how we usually start embarking with them. So if you ask them, what is our role within the community? Are we simply there to exploit the resources? Or are we there to share the resources and keep them for future generations? So you might start that as an inquiry with your students. And then you ask them to, what do you think you can do? And then they're going to start listing that if I'm a global citizen, this means I need to take care of the environment. I need to be aware of any issues that are happening globally because they might affect me locally as well. So I need to use the resources wisely, and I need to use them in a way that I will sustain them to future generation. So it might be a good idea for you if you want to go through the inquiry cycle with them and simply ask them, what is our role in the community? That's an interesting unit for any individuals and societies teachers, or I might take it as well because we're planning new units for the new academic year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Sustainability is a good resource as well. In order to connect it, you might want to look at Global Schools and Global Citizens app. I usually use it with my own students because they keep on reading about the different issues that they have around the world, and they choose how to take action. So you can take action through signing a petition, through sharing, for example, a tweet, through recording a video of something that you can do, or simply taking on a campaign and actually implementing it with the school. But I find that if we inquire within what we want our students to reach with the students, they're actively engaged within the whole process, and you'll be surprised of the things that they can actually help. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, yes, you did.
You're most welcome.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you, you too. If you have any further questions. Yes. Saba. Hopefully I read the name accurately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sabha, you have something to say? Okay, I think we're right on time being able to wind up the session as well. Thank you so much, Ileana. I think you've been, as everybody in the chat has mentioned, you've been able to simplify this process, and I'm sure everybody has a lot of takeaways from the session that they'll be able to implement in their classes. I could clearly see when we spoke about concept-based inquiry, spoke about collaborative learning, how to collaborate effectively. I think we spoke about a notion of skills. And that is the need of the hour. That is the need of the hour that we as educators need to implement in our classes. Another thing that I really took back from the session was that we must model collaboration. Model is what you say. And our whole idea of setting up such webinars is to collaborate with each other, to be able to learn from each other, share strategies, share examples, share experiences. And that is where I wish to look forward for multiple more such sessions from you, from other educators as well, who would really want to contribute to the system, to this society of learners, what we are. Looking forward for many more such sessions. Thank you so much, Ileana. Thank you so much to each and every participant as well for sparing their time, for being a part of this community. Anytime that you look forward, anytime that you look forward to have such skill-based learning into your classrooms, reach out to us. Shimanli is your partner, being ready to collaborate. Let's look forward to multiple more with such.
Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you Shimanli for a wonderful session as well. I believe when we model for teachers and we share our own experiences and we share these strategies and what do we learn, this is the best model of collaboration that we can actually give teachers. So thank you very much. Enjoy your day, enjoy your evening, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
We must, absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great evening ahead, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Ileana.